And you had to crawl down into a manhole, get on an 11-foot ladder, and then crawl back through that pipe and to get back in here. And then they built this entrance. It's a lot nicer. It's a lot easier to get in.
So, is that manhole somewhere else, or is it the same place?
Full the manhole. The pipe's still there. It's bare.
Oh.
You need a sign that says "Speak, friend," and enter.
I know. Actually, I put one up there.
Oh, you did?
I just used cave mud and I put it on that wall. It's washed off. I used to say, abandon all hope.
Is it pissing on us? Yeah.
Because we've got the gate and the alarm, and the doors and the security system. Because shortly after it was discovered, there was a break-in. Somebody was wandering around. They had 3 guys wandering around in here. They stepped on some fossils and messed up some formations and
Oh wow.
did some really bad things. So they put in the alarm on these doors. Of course, part of the reason for the doors is to maintain the environment in here. So I asked the last person to close the door behind them.
Okay.
At some point, you'll take that task.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll
After we
close
get
it.
in, get the lights on.
So this is like going into a submarine.
Yeah, it is.
Come on, you have a flashlight on or something?
Yeah.
You want me to close the door right now? Is that what you're saying?
Lights.
Oh wow.
Oh.
Wow.
Thanks, sir. Close that door.
It's way more fascinating than I thought it was going to be. Oh.
Oh my gosh.
The original entrance, this entrance was created when they were blasting for the road. The original road was supposed to come right down through here. They blasted the cave, opened it up. They were set to just go ahead and continue blasting, but then the blasting was occurring on September 11, 2001. And a couple of jets hit the World Trade Center, and they suspended all blasting in the U.S. So they weren't able to blast anymore. So they're sitting here looking at the entrance of this cave, and they decided to call up to Missouri State and say, "We found a cave. You got anybody who wants to come look at this?" And nobody really did, because they find caves all the time, using it as little trash pits or something like that. But Matt was there, and he said, "Yeah, I'll go look." So he comes over here, not expecting much, sees the entrance, comes in, sees the formations. Yeah, that's cool. But a lot of caves in Missouri have formations. And then he starts looking around, and one of the first things he sees, this light's dead right here, is that depression right there. A depression in the ground.
Okay.
Which if I saw that, I wouldn't think anything of it, but Matt, being a paleontologist, looked at it and said, "That's a bear bed." And when bears dig their beds, and when they're in caves, they dig them small enough so that it contains their body heat. They don't dig big holes, they dig small holes that they can just fit into. And that's a lot bigger than a black bear.
That pit right there?
That hole right there.
You're kidding me. Just next to, or in front of the, or behind the stalagmite?
Just right here in front of right here off the end of the trail.
Wow.
And he said, "That's a bear bed, that's not a black bear bed, that is a giant short-faced bear." Which means that this cave is ancient, because they died out 15,000 years ago. He said, "Okay, it's an okay, that's neat." He wanders around a bit more, and he starts seeing more and more fossils, but he's got a limited amount of time in here. He goes in, he wandered around to see quite a bit of stuff, but he didn't see everything, But he came back out and he lied a little bit. "There are thousands and thousands of thousands of national treasure. We need to preserve this." And they said, "Okay." So they pushed the dirt back up against the entrance and effectively sealed it off at that time. And then it sat for 2 months because they had to finish the road. And while they were finishing the road, Matt's sweating it a little bit because he'd kind of lied a little bit about how awesome this cave was. And they ended up, when they opened it back up, and he came back in here and got to explore a little more and do a little more work in here, and found out that yes, it really is that awesome. What we've got here is a cave that has been completely sealed for 75,000 years. Which means it was sealed way before man was here, and when it sealed, it perfectly preserved everything in the environment from all the animals that wandered in and out. One of the entrances was back down that way, it's sealed, and it would have come out towards the river. And one of the entrances is back that way, and it would have come out over there by Ward Branch. a little creek running down there at the bottom of the hill. And it's sealed, and everything in here was preserved almost, pristinely. The only real thing that has changed since that time is basically the formations.
So did water was running through here at one point?
Water's run through here at several points.
Okay.
Several, not recently, not any time, and not since it's sealed. What happened? This used to be what's called a piracy cave, and when the water would get up in Ward Branch, it would flow through here and flow out into James.
Oh, so it was like an overflow type situation.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And at other times, over time, rivers and creeks eat down to the bedrock,
Yeah.
and the creek and the river would have been a lot higher at that time. This would have been, riverfront property at some point. And when it flooded, it would have filled the cave. At one point, there would have been massive amounts of water gushing through here. At other points, it would have filled up and gotten stagnant in here, and it would have stunk. And just had nasty stagnant water. So we really picked the best time to come to the cave as far as that goes, because early on there would have been rushing water, later on there would have been stagnant water, and then after that there would have been giant short-faced bears. So this is really the best time to be in here.
Did all that water bring in fossils from the outside? Okay.
I mean, there's animal inhabitants, like the giant short-faced bear.
Yeah.
And at one time there's wolves in here, not wolves as we know, but they would have been armbrusters wolves, which are kind of like a dire wolf. Armbruster.
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 Is that somebody's last name?
I'm sure.
Okay.
I'm sure Matt can tell you exactly who. Just some guy named Armbruster that decided he got the name of wolf. They were in here. Of course, there's lots of other animals that would have wandered into the cave environment to escape the elements or to hunt food or whatever, And there's a lot of different trackways and stuff in here that are really, really neat. But
Yeah.
the formations are cool, right?
Yes.
One of the things that some of the caves that we go into, like Fantastic Caverns,
Mhm.
it looks like they've plastered like a lot of stuff in there to make it like secure.
Right.
Is all of this like
From
besides like
this point forward, they've got the trail, and we've got a spot back there we're digging, but everything else is basically untouched. And that's what, of course,
Did they dig some stuff out of those spots there? It looks like they might have pulled something out of
here, no.
from that formation. There's like a holes there. Look like
That formation, a lot of these there was some formation damage when they blasted, of course.
yeah.
You see where that one's been, they fixed that to some extent.
Mm.
That one was not damaged by the blast. That one's got, you see where it's got new formation on it. The reason it's tilted over like that is when the formation formed, it formed on clay underneath us, and as it got heavier and heavier, it's
Oh.
so you'll see a lot of that in caves. There's formation over there, those formations. These two got to make it all the way to the ceiling. These three got to make it all the way to the ceiling before it must be on some pretty solid stuff down there. Let's see, what else is in here?
Oh, this one tilted over. These tilted over, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that's how caves form. And we use a lot of formations to line out the paths. This is essentially the same path that Matt would have taken when he came in here last time. Those tree roots are fairly new. They weren't in here when I first came in 10 years ago, 11 years ago.
Don't chew on them, Christopher.
They cleaned off the rock up above and created the grade. And then
Yeah.
the trees to get their roots down here into that. The reason we have these formations here, you can see the cracks in the ceiling. That's where the water seeps in and carries in the minerals to create the formations. These formations continue back and you can follow that crack all the way back through there. These are the biggest formations in the cave. There's another room way at the back that has a lot of smaller formations. They're real pretty. They're a lot smaller and they're real pretty, but I've only been back there once in 11 years.
Oh, yeah?
I mean, I've got keys to the cave, and I could go in. I could go in and do anything, but I respect what we're trying to do in here is trying to preserve the environment.
Okay. Do you find any like a bird, like an owl?
In here?
Yeah, owl skeletons?
Well, we found a lot of, not a complete owl skeleton. Most of the skeletons, we found very few intact skeletons. We found a snake skeleton that was mostly intact, but a lot of the fossils we find are as a result of being washed in with the flood.
Yeah.
Or being dragged in here and eaten by the wolves. The wolves left a lot.
Oh, wow.
And frogs and birds.
Oh,
and
wow.
stuff like that. As far as animals that actually ventured into the cave, you've got the wolves, the bears, raccoons, bobcats, American lions, stuff like that wandered in. The reason we know they're in here, claw marks on the walls. We found one wolf toe bone, but we haven't found any bones from the giant short-faced bear.
Oh, just the pit.
We found claw marks, we found beds, we've got, I'll show you some interesting remains up here, but we don't have anything that, we don't have any kind of bone. Of course, we haven't thoroughly explored the entire cave.
Wow.
Slow process of pulling stuff out of here. Over here, we have more bear beds all along this wall back through here. All the way back up through there, you see where they dug out and created depressions for themselves to lay in. There probably wouldn't have been more than one bear in here at any given time. Because it was a serious meat eater, serious predator, and predators of that size tend not to hang around each other, with the exception of lions on the Serengeti and stuff like that, but this would have been more like the solitary tiger or jaguar or something like that. But in this bear bed, we have poop. Giant short-faced bear poop.
Those called corpalites?
No, it's actually still, nothing in here is fossilized.
Oh, okay.
Nothing in here is fossilized. It's been preserved.
Oh, you're
as
kidding
it
me.
is. I mean, it's not great preservation, but still, it's 75,000-year-old poop. It's not going to get what you expect. That piece right there, right here, I've never touched it. It doesn't retain a smell. Didn't preserve that well.
Yeah.
But Matt took some, had a sample just to see what the diet of the giant short-faced bear looked like. Kind of already knew because it was all pretty much meat. Not very flexible. It was a predator primarily, and when its food source died, it went.
Yeah.
And so, it's not, and the competition from the brown bears that came over across the Bering Strait would have pushed them out.
So the brown bears came over from Asia?
Uh-huh.
Wow.
They did.
Uh,
When they came over, they were some level of competition, plus the dying off of the megafauna. After the Ice Age, it just really messed with the giant short. Of course, we don't really want them around right now. If they had been, there were some when man first came over, but they were on their way out. And if they had been around, there probably would have been less people.
Fewer. Man.
And less people in caves. Matt does a class on caves and how people interact with caves. He does that through Drury. And it's pretty interesting. I've never sat in on it, but I've watched him put together his notes and we talk about it and stuff. And he talks about how caves are responsible more or less for civilization, where they realized
Yeah.
they could have a shelter. You know, ancient man would realize we can have a shelter, and went from finding caves to creating shelter. So that's kind of neat. There's a claw mark right there from a giant short-faced bear. Everybody else wants to come up and see the poo and the claw mark?
Yes, I want to see the poo.
Yeah.
Have they,
Small group things. No, we don't go beyond this point.
I would imagine it may have degraded over time, but
It's small, but who knows, you know? Could have been young, because that's one of the reasons they come in the cave, is to raise their youngs. Or it could have just decayed over time.
Desiccated.
Desiccated.
Yeah.
As far as the animals in the cave now, you've got a salamander. It probably wasn't here before it was opened up.
The poo.
And that's all a bear bed too back there?
All the way
And then
back to
back
the
there is
bear
a,
bed. We've not touched
But
that.
that's one for one bear that
Wow.
would make that pit.
Over time.
Over time.
One bear at a time, you know, so a bear would come in and there'd be a pit there, and you'd have another bear's poop in it and stuff, and so I'm not sleeping there, and you'd dig another hole, and, you know, just over thousands and thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years.
have they gotten any DNA from any of this stuff?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah.
They could,
You think they could?
I think so.
Really?
I'm not sure what condition it would be in, but they should be able to.
How degraded.
DNA is a surprisingly stable molecule. It's not like most proteins fall apart when you look at them raw.
Who's brave and wants to cross the bridge?
Me?
Oh, yeah.
Let's say, I had a 70-year-old woman back in here.
There we go.
Is she still back there?
Not yet. They said, if we wanted to have somebody disappear, we've got the means, right?
Watch out for that one.
Bridge is very, very stable. On one person who fall on it. That was Matt. He was back in here by himself after they first discovered it, doing some work. Back then, he was really excited about it, he would stay here for 14 hours a day, just doing work and digging and stuff like that. He was back in here one day, and he was back a little bit further, he heard the door. Someone said, hello. So, not supposed to be in here, but he comes running up to the front to cut somebody out. It's a Green County deputy, but when he ran up through here, he slipped off the bridge, and there's usually water down there below that. Or sometimes water, always lake temporary.
Ooh, Terry. Don't jump up and down on Alex.
Didn't bring my flashlight, in my truck. This wall right here has some really good claw marks on it, places that have everything. I think there's some bear claw marks there, but up over here, can't say with any degree it's certainly what it is. It could be raccoon, some bobcat. You gotta realize, of course, we've got the luxury of light. When they were in here wandering around.
Oh, it's pretty dark.
It's pitch black, so they're feeling their way around and trying to find stuff and climbing up walls and stuff like that. Trying to find all the nooks and crannies, so they can find something to eat. We've never found any remains of bats in here. But frogs, of course, the pickerel frog, leopard frog, will come in here. If you've ever been in the museum, and you go to the museum when you get done, I guess. This wall is where there were tortoise shells sticking out of this wall. They were still in there when I first came in.
A tortoise shell?
Tortoise shell, not, it would have been relative to the box tortoise, but larger. You see those shells in there. And one of them was probably brought in here by the wolves, because it has a puncture mark in it. And it lines up perfectly. We've got a replica wolf skull that lines up perfectly as far as the bite.
And where
the
the
wall
teeth.
right here is the wall of science. You see the pegs sticking out of there. Each one of those pegs represents about 120,000 years of difference, more or less. Now, the pegs themselves are actually in the spot where there's a dividing line in the time, and that there'll be a gap in there for about 100,000 years, and then there'll be more. The reason for the gaps is during the Ice Age, a lot of the water was locked up in the ice cap and in the glaciers and stuff, so there would have been no flooding events. Then when, then in periods between the interglacial periods, then you'd get the floods in here and they would deposit the mud. In a lot of caves you'll see red clay, a lot redder than this, because that's what the Burlington limestone decays into when it starts weathering away. It decays into this clay doesn't come from the decaying of that. It was actually what was washed in. All of this was washed in at one time or another. The water came rushing through here, and at one point the water created this convenient channel for us to walk through instead of being up there crouching along the top.
This is convenient.
It's nice. And then, so we dated this, and of course, first thing you want to do when you came in here, dated, looked at some of the fossilized stuff, and then pulled some pollen and some other biological matter out of the mud and had that dated. They tried radiocarbon dating, didn't work.
Yeah, that's only good for like 50,000 years or something, isn't
Only
it?
good for about 50,000 years, which was kind of surprising. Matt at that time sent out an email to a bunch of his science friends and stuff and said, I think we've got a really old cave here. And they all laughed at us. No, all caves are from since the Ice Age, there's deposits of material and fossils will be since the Ice Age. And said, no, I think it might be a little older than that. It could be up to 500,000 years old in here. And finally was able to get some dating on this using, I can't think of which element it is. I'm an English teacher, not a scientist. So use the dating was actually able, I know how they dated some of this. They dated down to here by the polarity of the material, the minerals in here. Because when the poles shifted 750,000 years ago, it changed the structure of the minerals in here. And they were able to determine, okay, it's 750,000 years old. So
At the bottom.
Yeah, well, down here.
Yeah.
And Matt sent out his email and said, ha, ha, ha. I told you I had an old cave. And that email kind of went viral among the scientific community, the people that were interested in such things. And a gentleman, I forget which college, which university it was, he said, well, I'm working on a new process on dating if you think that cave may be even older. It has something to do with the decay of beryllium into aluminum-13 or something like that. He said, how far below the surface are you? Because what causes it to decay is cosmic rays. I said, well,
Oh,
I'm 80 feet down. He said, fine, that's great. You have to be at least 30. So when you're down in this cave, you're not subject to cosmic rays.
yeah.
That's good. You can take off your tinfoil hats.
Okay.
But he managed to date it, and he got us down to 1.1 million years, which makes it the oldest Ice Age cave in North America.
You have a pin at 1.1 million years?
This one right here.
That's
the gray material right there. Below that, you basically got rock. Except there's a pit up there where that light is that we've been digging in, and we found another layer. We haven't had that dated yet. There's another cave in Indiana, Bat Cave, that they've been dating, and they found out that it's getting close to us. So as soon as when they do that,
No.
we send this off, and
Yeah.
they may have sent it off already. I'm not sure.
well, I dated a cave in high school.
Yeah.
No, I didn't really. Geologist humor. Oh.
This is our dig area back here. And this upper level is when the water in the cave is mostly stagnant. The stagnant water would come in, so it's mostly silt. Very few fossils washed in with that because it was smaller material that washed in. The creek and the river had dropped enough that it's only major flood events came in, so it didn't send water rushing in. It was just stagnated here, and the silt would settle over thousands of years. So, but down at the bottom level, where you see the gravel and stuff, and even on this wall you see gravel,
That gray area.
that's from when the cave was younger,
1.1
and the water
million.
was higher, and the water was rushing through here, and it would bring in larger bones and fossils, and it was in that layer that we found the mammoth remains.
Oh, mammoth what?
Mammoth remains. We found
Oh.
some bones there up in the museum. We've got
In here?
scapula and- yeah. Actually, I think it was, well, I know we found a rib bone back over there where the ladder is. But we haven't found anything here yet because we haven't actually gone below the mammoth layer. This is approximately 10 years worth of digging. There are some isolated fossils within what we're pulling out of the silt, so we're careful. We use the trowels to dig it out, and then put it in the buckets, and we have to carry it all the way out, take it over to the museum, sift through it to make sure we didn't miss anything we were digging, and it's a long process. This 10 years worth of digging, it doesn't look real impressive when you say 10 years of digging, but it actually,
I could dig a
Science
little
is
bit
way more
faster.
boring than people realize.
basically on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, yeah.
We have a pretty good time when we dig down here, though. We come down here and just kind of joke around and dig and carry buckets. That's not the fun. That's what I make the new guys do. So,
If you need more new guys, I would happily carry buckets.
if we start digging again, we can get in touch.
Yep.
But we've been focusing on the dinosaur for the past few years, and the digs kind of tailed
I
off.
can figure out what to do with the kids for a week. We'll come out with you.
Yeah,
Cause you guys do that, usually do a week trip out to Wyoming, don't you?
we have done in the past. I think we're almost done in Wyoming. We've pretty much closed the door on Henry out there at that dig site.
Okay.
At that dig site, actually, we just kind of stumbled on that. We've been digging down in the cave for a few years, and we said, it'd be really cool to go dig for dinosaurs, because Matt had done that in the past. That's what he did as a teenager through his 20s. Is he would go out, he would load up his Harley and ride out. Well, he got interested in it because he went out to Sturgis, and then riding his Harley out to Sturgis, and he'd visit all the museums. He got really interested, and then he just started going out there for the dinosaurs, and he'd met some people and got to go on digs and stuff, and made some connections. And he said, "We're down here digging." He said, "I bet I can get us on a dig." So we went out just thinking, okay, we get to dig. It's awesome. But then the rancher whose land we were digging on, we found the Triceratops, and he found a Tyrannosaurus on his land. And he wanted to sell it, so he gave us the Triceratops as a tax write-off.
Oh,
It worked out really nice.
wow.
For us, we didn't expect anything out of the deal, and we got that. Unfortunately, this year, he sold his Tyrannosaurus for $4.5 million. And,
You guys don't need that here, though, do you? No.
and part of the deal that he made was that the museum he sold it to would get exclusive dig rights to his ranch, so we're out. But we were pretty sure that we got all of Henry anyway, which is really what we've been doing the last.
Henry is the Triceratops.
Yeah, Henry's the Triceratops.
Gosh.
So we're done out there, but Matt has a friend that in Utah now that is in a position where we might be able to be granted to go dig in Jurassic stuff and find some of the big sauropods, brontosaurs and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So, and plus it'd be around Moab, and I always wanted to Moab. This wall over here, you can see we're kind of the mammal there, but we started up there. The wolf beds would have been about that time period right here. And when we get bored of digging here and finding virtually nothing, we dig on this wall a little bit, and there's just all kinds of small bones, microfossils and stuff like that that we pull out of there. You know, just small mammals that they eat.
That they drug in from the outside.
We found, muskrat and just a lot of the smaller mammals, very similar to what we have now. Nothing too outrageously different. And then the cave just goes on back that way. One of the neatest, there's a couple of neat things back there. One of them is we've got peccary trackways, and peccary was basically an Ice Age pig. Looks a lot like a javelina. We've got one of those museum stuffed, I think. But they also have peccaries at the Dickerson Park Zoo, the Chicoan peccaries. These would have been much bigger. And in the past, people had found bones in caves and just assumed that the peccary had been dragged in. We've got tracks, lots of tracks.
Oh,
So they
wow.
came in here for whatever reason. And then there's a really neat spot called the Bear Pit. And it's a pit in the ground. And there's a ledge up above it with a trackway on there. And there's claw marks from a giant short-faced bear all over that wall. Or you can just imagine, you imagine back there that pitch black, pigs squealing and running across that, and the bear roaring and trying to grab him off the shelf. And we know he got some because we found bones with bite marks out.
Oh my gosh. So you can almost like put together a moment in time of what happened. Not just bones in the pits, but actual stuff that happened.
You can. I mean, with the tracks and everything else that we've got, I mean, we're more than just, we've got so many trace fossils in here. You can just put together all kinds of stories about what happened.
Wow.
And the cave goes back for about 1,000 feet. And then it branches a little bit. The west passage goes back to the other formation room, and the east passage goes back to where there's a bunch more bear beds. And I think Matt himself has only been back in that passage once or twice. It's a little unstable. And then, I've never been back in there. So it's kind of like a vault back in there that we're kind of holding out on until we get to it, which is we may never actually do anything in that room. It'll be up to the next generation or whatever.
So this hasn't really fully been mapped. There could be more beyond
Oh,
that.
it's mapped. It's
Oh.
mapped completely. He went back in there once, did all the mapping.
Oh,
We've got
okay.
the maps up in the museum that you can see.
Okay.
When you say it's not stable, what do you mean it's not stable?
Ceiling.
Really?
Yeah. Which I don't know what that means exactly. I didn't see
I
it.
didn't see,
I just have to be told it's not stable. I don't need that. Kills my curiosity.
I've always been told that caves are the safest place to be in earthquakes because
It depends on the cave.
it's already survived that long, so.
But you've seen the crack in have you been to Marble Cave down Silver City?
No.
You see the crack in the ceiling there.
Oh.
And all the breakdown. I mean, most caves do have some level of breakdown where rocks have fallen out of the ceiling. They don't do it
Yeah.
often,
Right.
but it does happen. And that's a spot where he felt like it was likely that it could. We did go back in there and went to the entrance and kind of poked around a little bit looking for that fabled giant short-faced bear bone that we haven't found yet, but nothing. We did it just kind of a casual trip back there. I can't remember. There's a reason. We always have a reason to go back there. I can't remember what. We kind of find other things to do too. Anyway, because you slog through mud about this deep and crawl a little bit, and so you get back there and you kind of want to make it worthwhile.
Yeah. All right. We turn around now, or
Yeah, this is the end of the standard tour.
that was fantastic. And what's up this way?
There's actually, of course, we get up there to set up the lights and stuff. There's a still formation called Calcite River. Just,
Watch out.
yeah, somebody fixed that for me last time. I don't know what happened to really fix it. If you can imagine carrying 2 40-pound, 50-pound buckets of shredded clay back through here 20 or 30 times a day. We don't know. We learned not to do that real quick. You have to carry 2. One of
pretty cool.
Yeah, the one's been for almost 8 years, and still doesn't dig this. Of course, she's going into archaeology, so we don't like her anymore. Paleontologist and archaeologist.
The enemy.
Most of it comes from the confusion. Most people say, yeah, you dig up bones, you're an archaeologist. No, I'm not.
No.
And that's the original. You see that box down there with a hole in the middle, that's where the pipe came out. Right down
The
there.
box?
It's covered in cement, there's that square piece right there.
Okay.
That's where the original pipe came out. It's still there, trying to crawl like a room and back out.
No. Oh, this was the old trail right here.
Yeah.
That tiny little thing?
No, it opens up.
Oh, okay. All
It
right.
used to, I don't know if it does now.
Yeah. It looks like it's got gunite all over it.
Yeah. That was to help seal the cave. Or maintain the integrity of that seal without some kind of artificial.
Swimming pool, concrete. Cool.
I have a hard time keeping lights down here.
Why?
Water.
Oh. You need like underwater lights?
Something. Need something better than we get at Harbor Freight.
That was fantastic. Back into reality.